I'm about to show you a build that's going to make you damn near invincible. With this build, you'll have everything to become Weapon X. I'm talking about insane damage output, aggressively overwhelming speed, with a nearly unbreakable posture. If that sounds good to you, then stick around. Today's video is sponsored by AOEA.com. Make sure to check them out and use code rivtekk for 3% off at checkout. This is by far one of the most fun builds that I've created and played in Elden Ring. You essentially get to be a Mecha Wolverine. You have the high defense poise of the Armor of Solitude mixed with the high damage output and speed from the Claws of Night. Moving into stat allocation, as you can see here, I'm rune level 200, which at this point post DLC shouldn't be too far off from where most people are, or even for those going into a new game plus. Regardless of your level at this point, you should always put 60 points into Vigor. That's what's going to keep you alive throughout the DLC and going into New Game Plus. Next, we're going to obviously blast Dexterity because that is what the claws primarily scale to. I put 85. Then I put Endurance at 60 because it requires a lot of stamina. Then I put Faith at 25 so that I can use Flame Grant Me Strength and the Golden Vow. Alright, so breaking down this build, we obviously start with the Claws of Night upgraded to plus 10. As you can see here, it scales as a B to Dexterity at plus 10. It requires 8 Strength and 20 Dex to use, and it has a passive effect of Blood Loss buildup 45. On our left arm, we're going to use the Finger Seal plus 25. That's just so that we can use our incantations in order to buff. Next, moving into the armor, we have the Helm of Solitude, the Armor of Solitude, Gauntlets of Solitude, and the Greaves of Solitude. And the reason why I went with this armor set, one, you can get it early on in the DLC. Two, it has very high poise, as you can see on the right hand side. It has 96 poise. Moving into the talismans, we're doing a little bit of buildcraft theory here. I'm going to give you two options, but both of these options are going to involve 3 talismans, with the 4th one being one that you can swap out. The first talisman, our primary talisman, is the Rotten Winged Sword Insignia, which grants you a 6, 8, and 13% increase in damage with successive attacks. Next is the Lord of Blood's Exaltation, which grants you a 20% damage buff when blood loss buildup is in the area. So obviously, as we're using the Claws of Night and we're causing that blood loss buildup, we're getting an additional damage boost. Next is going to be the Two-Headed Turtle Talisman, which increases our stamina recovery speed by 22.5%. So as we're using all of those attacks, when we pause or we back up, we recover our stamina very quickly. I'm going to give you 2 options for the 4th talisman. The first one is the Godskin Swaddling Cloth, which at 60 Vigor will heal 87 HP every time you land 7 hits. Another option that you can go with is the Dragon Crest Great Shield Talisman, which enormously boosts physical damage negation by 20%. Additionally, you can choose any of the other Great Shield Talismans that negate either fire, ice, lightning damage, whatever boss that you're facing. Those are also an option. For the Flask of Wondrous Physick, we start with the Opaline Hard tier, which temporarily boosts all damage negation. Because this is a hyper aggressive build, we're going to need to reduce the amount of damage that we receive. Next, we're going to use the Thorny Cracked tier. The reason why I went with the Thorny Cracked tier is because it scales with the Rotten Winged Sword Insignia. At its base level, the Thorny Cracked tier increases attack power by 9, 13, and 20% for successive attacks, whereas when coupled with the Rotten Winged Sword Insignia, it triggers a hidden point system called Akumaval, which will scale your attacks to 17, 30, 45, and 60% with successive attacks. An optional item to consider for this build is the Blood Boil Aromatic, which is going to give you 2 buffs. You're going to get a physical damage buff of 30% and a maximum stamina buff of 20%. However, you're going to get a damage negation debuff of 25%. This is by far one of the most fun builds that I've created and played in Elden Ring. You essentially get to be a Mecha Wolverine. You have the high defense poise of the Armor of Solitude mixed with the high damage output and speed from the Claws of Night. The combination of these two things makes you virtually unstoppable. As always, if there's anything that you think would improve this build, any suggestions that you have, make sure to leave those down in the comments. If you want to check out any of the other builds that I've created, if you're interested in Elden Ring content or Souls-like game, make sure to hit that subscribe button. And if you found the video helpful, entertaining, or informative, make sure to hit the like button. I've been Riv, thanks for watching, I'll see you in the next one.